Thank you for tuning in to Andronetalks Radio, gathering as one in our sovereign truth from a galactic perspective, exploring our world with new ideas, knowledge, and a promise of a better future. Galactic discussions for galactic-minded people. Andronetalks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Andronetalks Radio. We have a special guest, Alfred Lambremont Webre, and we're going to have a very interesting discussion regarding current events and some of the work that Alfred has been doing, which I've been a big follower of yours over the years, Alfred, and I appreciate all your work.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice for you to join us today.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here.
So let's begin. We started a discussion about the process by which you work. Technically, you have a legal background. However, you see things from a broader perspective. It's a universal perspective. And even though it seems like there is certain elite that are in control and running the chessboard, so to speak, that there is a higher power beyond that, and maybe you can explain that to us.
Yeah, well, just to go back a bit and to take a perspective, probably my favorite course when I went to law school was African tribal law. And it was a seminar in which we went into the tribal laws. We did African tribal law, Inuit law, Eskimo law, and we saw that these were based on natural law, and they were based on the cosmology that the tribes, as had, and that is that law was an integral part of how they saw reality, and in this, divine source is a part of it, and law is an expression of the order. If things go out of order, the legal process is a working of the divine source. That's how it occurs, and that in fact is the role of natural law. And so when the 2019, 2020, what I call it, the genocidal technologies pandemic occurred, and I know, well, I'll just use terms. I have a certificate from the Harvard School of Public Health, as well as a law degree from Yale. So I'm on the technological side, I'm fairly trained on that lane, but this is the third tribunal of conscience that I've been a judge on. The first one was the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal, in which we found UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, as well as US President George W. Bush, and his vice president cabinet, guilty of war crimes and genocide for their unlawful invasion of Afghanistan, Iraq, and Guantanamo, Cuba. And the second tribunal of conscience that I've been a tribunal judge in was the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal, in which we showed that was an inside job, a false flag operation in which to create a pretext for the war on terror, which resulted in the genocide of over 1 million to 1.5 million citizens, civilians, people in the Middle East, as well as the permanent radioactive making radioactive of that area tremendous ecological damage through depleted uranium weapons. And so this was the third tribunal of conscience. And it came through my training through the certificate in public health from the Harvard School of Public Health that I acquired after being an administrator of a community health center in the lower Rio Grande Valley in Brownsville, Texas, right at the border with Mexico, where I was responsible for overseeing 20 physicians, 120 nurses, and 90,000 patient encounters a year. So I have a solid grounding in clinical matters. I also have a degree as a psychotherapist. So I'm a solid clinician as well as a solid legal practitioner as well as a judge. So I've got a solid grounding. And as well as that, I'm an author and the recognized developer of a new science called Exopolitics, which is a science of relations among intelligent civilizations in the multiverse through my book, Exopolitics, plus the co-discoverer. We have the universe, multiverse, and the omniverse. And my 2014 book co-discovered the omniverse, which is the third great cosmological body after the universe, which was discovered in 3400 BC by the Sumerian astronomers, and the multiverse in 1895 by the American scientist William James, meaning the totality of all universes. And the omniverse, its definition is the omniverse equals the multiverse, i.e. the totality of all the universes, plus the spiritual dimensions, i.e. The intelligent civilization of souls in the afterlife dimension, plus spiritual beings, plus source. But all of this is not a matter of belief. You have to show that these things exist through the scientific method. So we're familiar with the methodology of showing that the intelligent civilization of source, intelligent civilization of souls, and spiritual beings and source can be demonstrated through the scientific method, not only source. And you use evidentiary law to do that. Now, how did I get there? Well, I was sitting there one day and Oxford University Press, which is, this is a long-winded way of getting to your answer.
It's fine. It's really interesting. Keep on.
Yeah, but I want to lay the foundation, as they say, because what we're doing is that we're laying the foundation for the implementation of natural law on Earth. And I was sitting there, and Oxford University Press, which is a division of Oxford University, one of the temples of learning of the planet, came to me and said, Alfred, we've been following your work and we'd like to ask you to write a book on extraterrestrials and the law, okay? i.e., how can an earthly court acquire jurisdiction over an Arcturian that's in the sixth dimension, right? I mean, these are things that lawyers and judges try to figure out, right? So I sat down and started thinking about it, and out of that came my work and co-discovery of the omniverse, which is that we live in a dimensional ecology. The omniverse is a dimensional ecology. And what holds the dimensional ecology together is universal law, which is another way of calling it natural law. And the universe itself and the multiverse and the omniverse are all put together. The spiritual dimensions really create the universes and the multiverse, but you just can't go out there and create it willy-nilly. You're operating according to laws. You can't go into the universe and commit genocide. You have to follow universal law, etc. So those are the sources. I mean, we all of us here, we're inside these avatars. You're in the avatar of Jessica, and I'm in the avatar of Alfred, but we have a deeper soul, and we've incarnated into these for our moral lessons. Our souls are actually located in the spiritual dimensions, and we're projecting into these avatars. And the science shows that it's probable that we're leading 2 or 3 different lives in different dimensions at once. But it's all according to law. And so this is what was informing us when we got together and saw, because we were aware as a person that was informed about public health and had to do this as a clinician, that, wait a minute, there's something wrong about what's occurring here.
Before you go further, Al,
yeah.
I just want to tell you this is the first time we've ever had a conversation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the first time. So what's interesting is that what you're talking about is what I have been seeing all of my life, because I'm an interdimensional seer.
Oh.
And I've been talking to people for years that there is a hierarchy that is unseen. And when, just as there's laws of nature, there's natural laws of nature, and if things get disrupted, there are repercussions, even though it's not clearly evident to the human eye. But things seem to kind of, like, people call it karma, people call it, all these different, repercussions of events that occur, and you set something in motion. When you make a decision, there's another thing that occurs. And so there is this, I'm a multi-dimensional seer. So
right.
Since I was a child, I have been seeing, so people talk about a war. I'll see the war happening before the war is talked about. Or
right.
So I see that it's already happening somewhere else. And so I'm kind of viewing these things, didn't understand until I got older exactly what was happening. But I also recognized that there was this law that existed on these other planes of existence, as we're seeing. So people say, well, our legal system is set up from Rome. No, our legal system was set up before our existence. It already existed, and just manifest in form according to whatever the need was of that society. But each society alters and changes things accordingly. However, just because you change the law doesn't mean that it takes away from the existing law. The existing law are the natural law, as you stated. Correct?
Right. Exactly.
And there are councils. There are representatives of different societies in different locations. And when I would look at things, certain ones would show up and they would say something. And now me as the observer, I don't have any leanings towards anything, so I'm in a neutral party and observing things. But as I started to get more involved with what's happening here on the world, then I started saying, well, I'm presenting this now to this high court. This is happening. I know it's a violation. And I'm asking on the behalf of humanity, can something be done here? And I've discovered that other people were doing the same thing. I've also encouraged people to do the same thing. Now you, with your understanding of the natural law, of the legal system, of it looks like the health industry as well, and so many other things that you named. And so you're taking that information and then presenting it up to the universe, and we are getting heard, because the momentum by which they were moving was going very rapidly. We're slowing it down. It is working. Not at the pace that we wanted to, but there are other things at play. So as we're asking things to stop, there's other things that if it happened too soon, there's a collision of something else. So there's a wisdom in all of this, even though it feels very frustrating to sit here and watch it. But thank you for sharing that, because not many people fully understand it.
Right, and it's just an amazing process to be able to understand the clinical process, and at the same time to be informed of the legal standards at the natural law level, at the common law level, at the international treaty level, and to have access to all of those three, and to know that what was occurring was creating disruptions in all three levels, such that what's called the tribunal of conscience had to come into being. And a tribunal of conscience is something that comes together when the normal courts, the normal civilian courts, there's a large-scale disruption or genocide happening, and the civil courts are sitting on their hands or asleep. And so people of conscience come together. It's like a natural law jury. And that's what we had to do. We had to come together as a tribunal of conscience, and we had to bring together the facts, and then we had to bring together the law and issue an indictment and issue a sentence and put it out there. And at one level, it would be self-enforcing, because you're just channeling through natural law so that the most egregious things would be self-enforcing, because, as we've shown in some of our other articles, in fact, I was looking it up the other day, on October 28, 2011, the interdimensional core portal at the core of our universe. You know, there's a portal at the core of our universe. There's a portal, there's a black hole or a portal at the core of our galaxy. We have a portal, which is our sun, at the core of our solar system. But the portal at the core of our universe started signaling positive energy. We're on a positive timeline, so that anything that was trying to channel a catastrophe was just blown away. We're on a positive timeline. And as of the end of 2011 and the beginning of 2012, our Earth went on to a positive timeline, onto a paradise planet. And I've written books about that. You can see it in my the third book of my Omniverse, The Emergence of the Omniverse, and you can see it you can read about that in the Chronography book that just came out, where it's documented. Because we even had, we worked with whistleblowers from the secret DARPA CIA time travel program, such as U.S. chrononaut Andrew D. Bashago.
Mm-hmm.
And he went public, and we've been consulting with him for almost 20 years. We met him in the year 2000, and he first came across me in 1971, where the CIA had gone and they had time traveled my Exopolitics book, which I wrote in 1999, put on the internet as a free ebook in the year 2000. And it was published as a softcover in 2005, and they time traveled it back to 1971. And he was doing time travel for the CIA in 1971, and time traveling to a DARPA forward time base in 2045, and taking messages from 2045 back to 1971, showing the past, how to get to the future successfully. And one day in 1971, he was sitting around a table with his father and one other person, and they brought a satchel with items from the future, and out popped let me get the book right here. Out popped a copy of Exopolitics, which had been brought back from 2005 back to 1971. So he first saw my name in 1971, and he contacted me in the year 2000, tell me all about it.
Wow.
But then proceeded to whistleblow and told me about, many things, and went public on the fact that in 1970, among many things, in 1971, he did a one-time chronovisor probe to the year 2013, in which they found the U.S. Supreme Court building under 100 feet of brackish water. And they were just, the lieutenant commander of the U.S. Navy that was, sort of control, dropped his cigarette. They went panic. They sent the information up to President Nixon, and he ordered a $2 and $3 billion deep underground base program. And they built underground bases for all the elites, financial elites, and all the military. And that's what they were going to do. They were all going to go underground and let the civilians get toasted off.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, well, what happened? In October October 28th, 2011, the Earth went and shifted timelines to a paradise timeline.
Right.
And they completely, they have all these military bases, and they're on this timeline, and in their souls, they're on this ugly place. They be seed banks and everything. And we're on a paradise planet, and they don't get it, that God will not be mocked by these people. So that's the type of planet that we're on. That's the reality that we're on. And I don't want to, I don't know much how I can say, but that the current injection madness that we're on was part of that planning. But that's why it's all falling apart now.
Well, it's allowing us choices, and the choices is a part of growth.
Yeah.
So we can make our decisions, see that some of those decisions don't work, get rid of those decisions, and move forward into the positive timeline. I always say it's the highest intention for humanity. The most perfect timeline is within us. We're directing and co-authoring this, in the process.
Amen.
I want to bring in something that I think is what spun us out. And this was our biggest challenge is artificial intelligence. But I want to tell you that when I was 5 years old, And, you know, I've been open since I was, and aware that I was open since I was very young. And I remember actually having lucid dreams of these robots coming in to the Earth. That would have been around 1969. I was seeing these robots coming in. And that was the only thing that really scared me the most, because there was no heart and soul. There was no compassion for humanity. And I knew that if they controlled everything, it was going to be a horrible place. And for about 6 months, this happened. I remember crying, running to my mother, asking for help. You know, she didn't understand what I was talking about. But as you know, we can see as things have progressed, people started to really embrace AI. And and because AI is almost invasive, like a weed. You know, it starts to take over where you start to think it's okay, or it gives you, some people felt like it gave them an edge, made them feel like they were smarter, or more organized, or it was more efficient, or they didn't have to work as hard. You know, all of these different things that kind of were the enticing part of AI. But the trade-off is what? It's soulless. It's absent of life. There's nothing is going to properly exist. And you talked about the Inuit earlier. I knew this man who was Lakota, and he told me, he said, I want to tell you a story. He said, one of your guys showed up at our reservation. And I said, one of my men? He goes, well, yeah, I mean, he's saying he looked Caucasian, like a businessman. And he said he took him into the future. And he told me that everything was artificial. He said the insects, the grass, there was nothing real. And he said, I don't think I want that world. And I said, I don't think I want it either. These planes of existence do exist. There is a timeline that goes that direction. Some people may choose to go in that direction because we do have free will. But they don't recognize how bad it is and may not see it until they get there. And may not be able to pull out like they think they can. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a choice, right?
Exactly. And a few years ago, I spent some time examining the evidence for an invading, sentient, predatory, pathogenic artificial intelligence that had invaded and occupied contiguous planets in our galaxy, or, you know, this part of the universe. And that was invading and wanting to terraform our planet. And saw, you know, so that it appears that by the evidence, and people can go to exopolitics.com, and on the right-hand menu, there's an item that says invading AI, artificial intelligence. You can see all the panels and articles that we did. So I've been at this for some time. And then I wrote the Chronography book. And the Chronography is, it's a neologism, and what it means is those who rule through time. Like archy is those who rule, and chronography is those who rule through time. Mm-hmm. And the irony about it is that all of us has been trained to think, oh, we're in space and they're going to come and invade us through space and through outer space. And none of us really think about time, but really time is a hidden dimension, and the chronography are controlling us through time. And the book, The Chronarchy, has now appeared. We have a learning platform called Omniversity, and you can go to omniversity.us. There are various departments there in exopolitics, exosciences, sciences, and spiritual sciences. And you'll find the Chronarchy book there. But we also developed a novel called Timelines of the Chronarchy. So, because thinking about time requires some imagination, because humans have been trained not to really think about time. They're really hiding it from us. So one of the plot lines of the novel is that, listen to this one, the plot line is that in the year 2022, and we're in 2022, right, the timeline splits between the original organic Earth timeline that the divine souls go on and the AI timeline, in which, you know, individuals that have identified with the AI as God or are entrained in that, or the transhumanist agenda. And that's when the two timelines gain critical mass, and it happens in 2022. And that's the plot of the novel. Well, about 2 weeks ago, there's a channeler named Sarasota Ocean, who came out saying the timelines are splitting between the organic Earth timeline and the AI timeline, and that's the biggest challenge to our souls. And I went, oh my God, that's the plot line of the novel, Timelines of the Chronarchy. So I wrote that up in an article. I sent her a copy. I mean, she's huge. She has a lot of followers. So I don't know if she's seen it, but that, I think, is a very large feature. So I think that you and I were talking about, like right now, there's a scenario, for example, happening all over the world about the truckers and about the measures. And right as of today's Friday, February 11th, and where we are in those fixed scenarios is that the big bad governments are getting injunctions, and they're about to come down hard on the blockades. It's clear that if the blockades don't move, you're probably going to see a lot of people get hurt with nightsticks and, you know, some violence. And in fact, the Prime Minister of Canada, who we call the Prime Monster of Canada, talked about violence. I watched him talk about violence on TV today, just a few hours ago. And a good leader doesn't talk about that, just an evil leader who's really looking forward to it. So I think that right now we are looking at the splitting of the timelines. And we're looking at the development of those two planets, you know. There's an organic planet Earth, the divine planet, and then there's the AI planet. And I can remember going back to June of 1981, a number of us put on Peacequake, a peace concert in San Francisco Civic Center Plaza in support of the second special session on disarmament. And after that, we all went across the Golden Gate Bridge and we went up Mount Tam, and there was this beautiful psychic woman who, we went into her house and she said, and the planet's going to divide in two, and the military and war people are going to go off on one planet, and then, you know, the peace are going to go off on another. And that's exactly what's happening now. What do you think about all that?
I think people do attract the specific things that they're looking for and they're drawn to until they come to another conclusion. There are multiple crossroads, and I've seen that with people's lives, because I'll look at their Akashic records or see their life path, and they travel down a certain belief system, and then there's a question in mind where they either go right or left. It's like a crossroad decision, and we do that multiple times throughout our lives, whether we recognize it or not. Each one of those decisions brings you toward the place where you're going to end up, towards the end of your life, or not your soul existence, of course, but your physical existence. And when you have the difference in what's happening is the propaganda, the mind control, is actually interrupting the natural course. This is here again, we're coming back around talking about AI and how it's manipulating the thought process and the dharma, or the life purpose of the individual. And so now you have people making decisions that they would never make. And so it's creating this hive mind of thought, where people are actually manifesting some of these negative experiences that we probably didn't really need to go through, but because of this influence, this interruption of what we've had. So that's the other thing. In if we can manifest that the AI no longer has a superior influence on humanity's thinking, and that humanity is liberated from that, because I think that's the key. Because
very interesting.
There'd be so many other people right now. We're talking about like the truckers. Something broke through where the truckers became aware, and that they all said, enough is enough, we're going to do this for the people. And that many other people are starting, and the fear is dropping off as well. And so they have to come up with majority of it's fear-based. And they have to, one individual, I think there was a guy by the name of Chris Sky, or yeah,
Chris Sky.
He seemed like he was like a lone ranger, he was just out there doing it all by himself, and he had so much courage, and not many people were afraid to dip their toes in the water, they're afraid to say anything. And then the people that did try to say something publicly, they got slammed. Social media just cut them off. You don't have a voice. You no longer, are allowed to talk about these things. And so people have to remember who they are, and I'm not saying go out and, sabotage yourself, but I am saying that it's within ourselves. We need to break through energetically. We don't consent or agree. All be in agreement of saying within your minds, I don't consent or agree to this pipeline or to any of the AI that is influencing our reality today. And even though some people want it, we can say we don't want it. And the more that say they don't is the ones that are overruling the influence.
One very hopeful thing, and I learned this from people like Dr. Raymond Keller, who is a Venus visitor. He spent 6 weeks on Venus, and he's written 5 or 6 books on Venus. He's an expert on life on Venus. Is that the Venusians, Venus is like our older sister or our older brother. They're up at 5D as a planet. They had their war against AI and they won. And in a way, they charted a path that Earth can win. And the good thing is that Venus is now taking command in the solar system. The word that I got back most recently is that Venus has now set up a colony on Earth's moon, and they are beginning to set up a positive process on Earth's moon, so it's no longer in the kind of war zone, in that sort of war zone that we had from Earth,
right.
And so to the extent that, because during the Eisenhower administration, Venus had an ambassador in the Pentagon called Valiant Thor, and Valiant Thor was able to keep the vibration up, and that's why we didn't have any nuclear wars with Russia and everything else, because of Valiant Thor in the Pentagon. And now Venus, there are a lot of Venus visitors here now, and the Venusians had a tremendously positive role during the American Revolution, the Venus visitors, and during the French Revolution. And so I think that there's enough Venusian visitors here and positives. Everybody thinks, oh, what are the Pleiadians going to do? And the place in the sky. Well, no, it's it's the Venusians. It's our locals, and so because they've been through it, and I think that if as Earthians, if we can follow that Venusian path and let the next Valiant Thors come in, and have our Valiant Thors in the Pentagon, in Russia, in different places, that's how we can get a positive thing here on Earth. That's sort of the direction that I've been thinking. You may want to interview Dr. Raymond Keller. I know him quite well, but if you go to Amazon and enter in Keller Venus, you'll see all of his books there.
Yeah, definitely. And we can also do a group conversation.
Oh yeah.
And because I don't know if you're how familiar you are with the ACIO, but the ACIO has documented a lot of information. They're an organization that's been around for thousands of years, and so they take more of a neutral stance as like observer. But when there's certain extreme violations, like the Masonic Lodge being formed in 1717, or some type of world domination.
Right.
Black plague is kind of like the kind of thing when they start to intervene in a way. And one of the was it the guy that's with Valiant Thor was also someone that was connected to the ACIO. So
good.
So he wasn't from Venus, but worked with Valiant Thor. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So I always look at those influences, because I know that the influences that I've been able to, push along the exopolitics movement, that I've been able to push along the omniverse movement, and all of that. These are all positive developments. I mean, that let people start thinking about, the organized role of the universe, so they aren't looking at false flag attacks from outside, that Manichaean us versus them duality thinking, I win, you lose, but rather it's growth. And we just have to get people out of duality thinking, because right now the pandemic's over. It's over. It's fallen to pieces. The narrative's falling apart, and it's just people holding on to power so they don't get prosecuted and don't go to jail.
I just want to add to that. I was looking at the various countries that have ended their restrictions. One of them, Sweden. And I'm going to have the links in the show so people can review them.
Good.
Another one's in England. Another one there's Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands.
Right.
All just had, and even in Germany, they were going to be stopping some of the restrictions. And because of the truckers, I think there were, 4 regions that are shutting down some of the mandates as a result of the efforts. to shut
Right. You see, and here in North America, especially in Canada, a lot of the provinces have dropped them now.
Yeah,
but
that's
what's happening is
yeah.
at the center, Trudeau, the federal government, you have people there that are compromised. They're bought, and they're because of deals that they've made with the pharmaceuticals
right. There's lots of money
and
involved.
and there's a big Luciferian. See, Trudeau was a loose drinker. I mean, there's a lot of Luciferian, child sacrifice. All of that is kind of the quadrant that he comes from. See, his father, fate had it that fate made his father my personal lawyer, the personal lawyer of my company. You know that, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I've had sort of an indoor view of these things, and that guy is just a Luciferian blood drinker and loose drinker, and so that's who we're stuck with, and that's why he's not letting it go.
Well, they have everything to gain by keeping everyone under thumb, and if you like, many of them in leadership are claiming how dangerous all of this has been, yet they go maskless in social events, and it's clear that they don't truly believe the information that they're sharing, and yet many people are still having a hard time seeing through this and accuse us of conspiracy theory and what have you.
They're doing Luciferian mind control. This is so we're just going to have to do countermeasures against them, but people should be awake that we do have a Luciferian in power in Canada. I think that you're almost at the same level in the U.S. because I can tell you that it's the DARPA CIA time travel pre-identification, and Biden was pre-identified in 1971 as a future president, and they briefed him that he was going to be a future president ever since then.
They know that. Yeah.
He's sold out to communist China, and Mao Zedong was an operative of Skull and Bones at Yale, which is a Luciferian organization. Mm-hmm. Mao Zedong was an intern at Yale in China, at the Yale in China Hospital, which was a project of the Skull and Bones wing of Yale University, which is operated by the CIA and the Luciferians at Yale. My family, I went to Yale. My father went there. My family was instrumental in starting the Yale Divinity Schools, right? Apart from that wing of Yale. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Which has always been kind of a light versus darkness thing there. So Mao Zedong was really a Skull and Bones, Yale in China operative inside the Communist Party. Communism having been started by the Chabad Jews that Marx was part of, it's all Luciferian. It's all, about Moloch and the god Moloch and child sacrifice. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with the rights of humans and humans. It's just all baloney, and that's what it's all about. They just happen to have hoodwinked 2 billion Chinese because that's what they did, and so that's what. And then Biden and his son are totally on the dole there with communist China.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, there's been agreements, and there's two different things that I want to, branch off from what you just said.
Sure.
And one of them is that Yes, there. These people, the people say, you know, why don't we just get rid of them? You know, just get rid of, you know, one of these leaders that are creating this criminal activity on humanity. And I said, because the same entity that's in them, I've seen it happen. They step out and they just jump into another body.
Right.
So in order to deal with what's happening, you have to actually find the puppet that's puppeting the puppet. And then and until you grab that original one, which I've done before, and remove them or present them to the higher courts, which have been able to, they've captured a few of them already.
Whoa.
So, and that's the way we have to approach it, because everyone says, well, we'll just, you know, imprison them. That might work temporarily until that entity just decides this, you know, sleeve or this body is no longer useful. And I've watched it happen over and over and over again. I have seen people, I talk to them, they're very nice. And then all of a sudden they have this other kind of energy coming through them. And I said, I know I'm not talking to the same person. You know, there's an alteration that just happened right in front of me, and I'm aware of it, and I can actually see them exiting. And so it's a very strategic thing. A lot of the stuff is behind the scenes. We can't really talk about it because a lot of people don't fully understand, and they might be frightened if they understood half of the way these things operate and what these things actually look like that are using human bodies. And it's a variation. Some of them are definitely not compassionate towards humanity at all, have no association, and would be very happy if we were eliminated. So, but they also want our Earth's resources, and it's a very complex reasoning why these things are occurring. But we are in a multiverse, as you said. We're a galactic group of, and there's a lot of rogue ones out there as well.
Yeah.
So that's the one part. The other part that I want to kind of mention is this social credit system that has been part of the experimentation on our planet. And playing out already in China and in probably the US. I mean, by the looks of it, we're already set up. So, for example, what we're talking about right now, tonight, you and I just lost a whole bunch of credits. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, we are, which is why I've just gone into, you know, I just let go of everything, you know. Right. I just said, I'm on the divine timeline, and everything that's on the AI timeline, it just has no significance to me. So the social credit is on the AI timeline, so it has no significance to me. So as of today, see, yesterday I had no idea YouTube did this big thing to me, and I know you can edit this out, but I just want to get this thing out. I felt like I was hugely backstabbed, okay? And then I looked it up today. YouTube, its parents are Google and Alphabet and BlackRock. BlackRock owns everything. So they're the embodiment of what did it. So I just cut off everything in my life that was connected to YouTube, Google, Alphabet, and BlackRock, and I just did it today. And guess what? My life has just been simplified, and I feel really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an energetic thing. It really is. It's like the quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
Where you're connected to something, you become a part of it. You're not you don't realize how much you're not in agreement with it until there's a backlash, and then you have to create a spiritual disentanglement from whatever that is, and that liberates you.
Yeah. And that just happened to me over the last actually today, because I just went in. It's a splitting of the timeline. It's like it's happening to me, that the splitting of the timeline is happening inside of me, and I had to do it.
And if, this is why I have these discussions with people. So you have to present that alternate timeline where it is AI. You have to present what the outcome is in order for people to make the decision now.
Right.
To understand fully where the train is headed, where the timeline's going. It's like a train. I don't know if you've ever watched how a timeline moves. It's very interesting how a timeline moves, but it kind of has its own knowing. It literally has everything's alive. Everything in our existence has life, and it has like a tree knows how to grow. A tree knows how to find water. Everything has a natural knowing of operation as well. Timelines do as well. Even if they're working with AI, it just creates another timeline. But not talking about it is not going to help us. Talking about it, presenting it, and bringing it into the open allows people to say, this is a time for me to choose.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can attest to that, because it's a process that I've been in and had to deal with, now.
Right. Well, we're on the right track here. We're on the right track.
Yeah.
And there's so many other things. There's things right around the corner. Like you said, I think is it on Monday? There's going to be the Canadian government is going to respond to some of the actions of the truckers, and because there's money involved. And you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Oh, did I
for a minute.
Was I not there?
It looked like
no. You had my attention, because I wanted to say, oh, Monday. Well, what's going to happen Monday?
Yeah. So I think that they were threatening. I think is it Doug Ford?
But the Doug Ford, that injunction was 7 p.m. Eastern time, I think. So it's 5 p.m. Pacific. So they must be going through that right now.
Okay.
And you see, now for a long time, a number of years, I've been a fellow named Gary Peter Carlson, who wandered into my home here in Vancouver, BC, through a friend, and that's how we connected. His gift is to look at the soul. And so his analysis was to say, look, we really have 10 or 20,000 people in leadership positions who have archonic or reptilian souls. They don't have human souls. So right. The Doug Fords and the Justin Trudeaus and the Bidens, these people do not have human souls. They have draconian souls, or they have archonic souls, or he says a few of them have lizard souls. And his expertise was in being able to identify the type of soul. So he comes on my show about every couple of months or so, and we do that type of analysis. And we even did an analysis where I took him through the 108-page indictment, and we went through everybody that was indicted, and he identified what their soul was, right? Of course, the majority of them were draconian souls, right? So that the theory is that, at least this is one of the working theories, is that there was a rip in the fabric of time-space, a specific rip in the fabric of time-space around 1744, and about 10,000 or so archonic and draconian souls came in at that point. That's when the Rothschilds came in. They're the ones who incarnated, and that's when the Rothschild dynasty started. They are archonic souls, draconian souls, and that's when that whole thing started.
What did you say? 1700s?
Yeah,
yeah. So it's a 1717 was the Masonic Lodge was formed.
Well, that's when all of that happened, when there was a rift in time space, and a whole group, about 10 to 20,000 archonic and draconian souls came in through that shouldn't have gotten in, and they came into positions of power, and they've dominated in government, finance, media, religion ever since then.
Right.
And so that's why we humans are so oppressed. It's from that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So had a huge.
So that's the analysis that we've been operating, and so we've been trying to figure out how to get those souls out of power. See, because most humans don't have a clue that they know that, but these individuals are archonic souls. They have no empathy, and they aren't going to respond to anything.
They never will. No, because they don't.
Right.
Well, you call them souls. I don't know if they fit in that category, because I don't believe that they're sentient life. I don't believe that they have the. From my perspective and what I'm seeing, they are not divinely connected.
Right.
So they are here to take us and drag us down.
Yeah.
And, I think they operate under a form of mind control, like the reptilians have like a natural scalar, and they can actually, mess with your head without you even being aware of it. They're very, very manipulative and make you think you're seeing something that you're not seeing. And they're using these abilities, these advanced abilities, on people.
Right.
Like the celebrities. They're very like, why are people mesmerized by certain celebrities? It's because they have some other type of entity there that creates like a mind control or an illusion,
right,
that we're not accustomed to. So we see them as shining and amazing and alluring, mesmerizing, whatever you want to call it, and that's what it is.
Wow. So most celebrities are draconian then?
If you want to categorize everyone as draconian, you could, but I would say they're soulless entities that, remember, that's part of their illusion.
Right.
Adoration of humanity. We're the ones that have the life force.
Yeah.
We're the ones who are up here.
Yeah.
They're down here. For some reason, we're looking at them and bringing them up here.
Oh,
it doesn't
amazing.
make any sense, but it's actually the other way around.
Amazing.
Yeah. And people they're not fully aware of it. What my intention is to drop the veil and open everyone's eyes so they can see it.
That is awesome. That's really, really, really awesome to do that. That is very, very organic, and that can work, because then you're just working with the natural energy. It's sort of a spiritual martial arts.
But I honestly believe that's the way we were supposed to be.
Yeah.
Remember, I was a child that was psychic, and I couldn't talk about it. I remember seeing things in the neighborhood. I'd tell some of the kids in the neighborhood, and I remember them turning and looking at me and then I stopped talking about it completely. I couldn't talk about what I was seeing.
Right.
That type of ability is not, it's not supported in our civilization.
Right.
And people are accused of having mental health issues, schizophrenic, whatever. And there's a lot of people that have these amazing abilities. They don't understand what they are, and they get frightened because it's almost like taboo to talk about it. And when they talk, so they don't ever find the help. So they try to medicate or do some type of drugs to, subdue it and get rid of it. But that actually is our ability to be aware of our surroundings. And I tell people that the animals are a perfect example. They do not get rid of their intuition. Their intuition is their survival. It's supposed to be our survival as well. So when an animal senses a storm that's coming in 5 hours or 24 hours, that's their protection. Why is it, as humanity, we shut that down? You know?
Right. It's training.
Right. Training our young children who are coming in, who are brilliant, who have recall of their past lives, they have an understanding of who they are, who would be able to see who can see right through all of the deceit and the lies, would not be mesmerized, would not be entranced by these false politicians, rulers, manipulators, entertainers, and they would see things as they are, and then, as you said, they would be in alignment with their organic truth. That's the way it should have been from the beginning. The lie was, shut anyone down that can see, that can hear, that can feel, and that knows what is going on. And that's why they target the children first. Target the children very heavily. They target the adults, the elders, because they have the wisdom. They've seen so much. They know how to see through things through experience. They get those two groups. And the ones in the middle that are still trying to figure out everything else are the ones that they bother the least. They just throw distractions at them.
The distractions. Somehow I feel that they've lost the game, though, and that the game has shifted, and that the momentum is on our side, and because we are moving forward now. And
that's what we hold on to.
Yeah.
Don't ever let go of that, no matter what else is going on around us.
Yeah.
And I'm in 100% agreement with you, Alfred. That's exactly the key of survival of humanity. And for those that are not strong enough, they need someone like you, someone like myself, or many others that are saying, no, see through it.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck. Don't be in fear. Keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking that, do you think that we should continue like operating individually, or do you think we should become more organized? What are your thoughts about that?
I think we could do both.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, do your own personal work. Make sure your life is protected, that you're in alignment with your truth. And then when people join together and you know, say if we had like a universal meditation or a universal, you know, place for intentions, encouraging those that are weaker in their belief system to see through this and not feel, and the isolation too has been hard on people, but being able to communicate via internet or Zoom or Skype or however, or listening through YouTube, that people can find some hope or like-minded people, because a lot of people are isolated or they're within households that are not supportive of the awareness of what's going on, disclosure, and the, you know, the spiritual aspects and the inner truths.
Right, and I think that we can count on some breakthroughs. There are going to be some breakthroughs. People that are going to be individual breakthroughs, and that will change the game. There will be individual breakthroughs and game changers.
I agree.
You know, and
we're
that's
going to help them do that. We'll help them.
Yeah.
And what is it? Why don't you share with people how you keep centered and grounded throughout all of these? You know, look, because I know you watch the news. You're aware of what's going on. You understand what's happening with the court systems and the legal system and in the political system. How do you stay grounded? And what is your recommendation for others in this area?
Well, that's a complex question, and I have two major sort of you got me thinking there. Well, let's say I always start out with a teaspoon of C60 Evo carbon 60. And that's a miracle food.
Yeah.
And that really that was given 7. My little I've got my papillon. I've been here too much for him.
Oh, okay. We'll wrap it up.
Can you hear him?
Yeah, I could hear him. We'll wrap it up, and you just give us your last bits of advice.
Yeah. I tell you what. Why don't we do a follow-on program with that question?
Perfect.
Because that is a deep question.
I'll let you think about it. And
yeah. You asked a very deep question, but people can go to omniversity.us, and there are 4 departments there: exopolitics, exosciences, sci-sciences, and spiritual sciences. And that's just for starters.
That's perfect. And what we'll do is we'll provide all the links and the information that people need to take a look at your website as well as your books. Okay? All right.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure talking to you, Alfred. And yes, I'm gonna give you another call and we'll do another show.
Wonderful.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. And it's been for me, it's been really tremendous to link up with you and our 2 sort of platforms to link up.
Absolutely. And both of us will hold the highest intention for humanity.
Exactly. Good enough.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for listening to Andronetalks Radio, Andronetalks News, and whatever else we have going on in Exopolitics with Alfred Lambremont Webre. Everyone have a good day, good night, wherever you're at, and we will continue this conversation another time.
Okay, then. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Andronetalks Radio. Join us on YouTube channel Jessica Arael Morocco and visit our website at www.readingsbyarael.com.